So you want to learn how to play Junkrat? Well, you've come to the right place. For the next couple minutes, I'll teach you all about Junkrat's kit, tips, playstyle, maps, and compositions. But before I get into the guide, I'm just going to ask you guys to leave a like and subscribe if you found this video helpful or learned something new, as it really helps the channel grow and reach more people. Personally, Junkrat is one of my favourite DPS heroes, not only because I am much better with projectiles than with hit scan, but he's also Aussie, so I have a slight favouritism towards him. But still, he's one of the best characters in the game to put damage down range, making an area extremely deadly to be around, and as such he excels in zone control and spam, but at the cost of inconsistent mid and long range damage, making him more of a situational pick to have in your hero pool. But enough of that, let's get right into his kit. Junkrat has a total of 200 HP, which is completely normal for DPS characters. His primary fire is his frag launcher. This frag launcher will shoot out grenades every 0.666 seconds, and each of these grenades will do 120 damage if directly hitting enemies, and they will deal less damage to anyone within its blast radius. These grenades have a relatively slow travel time, as well as an arc, requiring a lot of leading of your target at anything outside of close range. The grenades will also bounce off the walls and floor till either they make contact with a target or stop moving, at which point they will explode. The frag launcher has a total of 5 shots before needing to be reloaded for 1.5 seconds. Junkrat's first ability is Concussion Mine. Concussion Mine is a thrown ability that can be detonated at any time with secondary fire. The mine has a faster projectile speed and about less of an arc than his frag launcher, and the mine will attach to the first surface it touches. This mine will do 120 damage at the center and will scale up to 20 damage at 3 meters from the center. The mine will also knock up enemies away from the center at a fixed 45-degree angle. Also note that the mine can be detonated from above an enemy and it will still send them upwards. This mine does not do self-damage, but it does apply knockback onto Junkrat, making it his most important and flexible ability. Junkrat can hold 2 of these mines, and each one has an 8-second cooldown. Junkrat's second ability is Steel Trap, and it's much more simple than Concussion Mine. It is a thrown ability that deploys once it hits the ground. It has a relatively heavy arc, so it can only be thrown a couple meters in front of you. Once on the ground, any enemy that walks over it will get rooted for 3 seconds, and also take 80 damage. Steel Trap has a 10-second cooldown. Something to remember is that both Steel Trap and Concussion Mine can be destroyed by enemies. Next is his ultimate Rip Tire. When activated, Junkrat becomes immobile, and you gain control of the massive tire on Junkrat's back. This tire will move at over 200% speed, and can only move forward. It can also climb walls, just like Genji or Hanzo. This ultimate will last for 10 seconds or until it's destroyed or activated. Any time within its duration, Junkrat can detonate the tire, causing a devastating explosion, dealing 600 damage at the center, and scaling to 50 damage out at 10 meters. The tire has 100 health and can be destroyed by the enemies, which will lead to no explosion and sadness for you. Finally, Junkrat's passive is Total Mayhem. Upon death, Junkrat will drop 6 grenades that deal 50 damage each, and will detonate after 0.7 seconds. Now on to tips. We need to understand Junkrat's strengths and weaknesses and how to play around them. Junkrat excels at area denial and spam damage, as his primary fire can be constantly shot into a choke point or area of conflict and will bounce around and explode all over the area, making it lethal for most characters. This is his biggest strength and largest weakness. His primary fire is so good at spam and poke that it is extremely unreliable in mid-range engagements that take place out of extremely small corridors. His projectiles are so slow that you as a player can actually just dodge them completely, which means that despite the fact that Junk has high spam and area denial, his ability to duel and consistently deal damage in most fights is almost non-existent. So, how does Junkrat get around this? His Concussion Mine. His Concussion Mine is by far his most flexible, reliable, and important ability in his kit. It can be used in so many ways depending on what you want to achieve, and deciding how to use it can make significant difference in the outcome of a fight. There are 3 main uses for his Concussion Mine. Let's start with the simplest, using it as a trap. A very common strategy is to place a Steel Trap and a Concussion Mine next to each other, either on a flank or in a high traffic area, and to detonate the mine when the trap gets triggered. Since the trap does 80 damage and the mine does 120 damage, This combo will one-shot any squishy target and can help secure your backline from threats. The second use of Concussion Mine is as a finisher. As I have mentioned, Junkrat's primary fire is very easy to dodge, which can lead to targets getting away with only a little amount of health. If you hit someone with your primary fire, or your teammates get someone low, you can easily throw your mine at them and detonate it for reliable damage to finish enemies off. Also, if you get close enough to a squishy target, you can pull off a one-shot. You can shoot and then immediately throw and detonate your Concussion Mine for an instant 240 damage. And the final use of Concussion Mine is for mobility. Since the mine also applies a knockback onto you, it can be used to take high grounds or escape dire scenarios. Now that I've talked about Junkrat's mine, let's talk about his steel trap. I've already mentioned the one-shot trap mine combo, but you can only do that before fights begin to start. So where can you place the trap throughout fights? Well, the best place is where the enemy wants to be. Against flankers, this means placing the trap to your side and near health packs. Against deathball tanks, it means placing the trap near corners of walls. And against dive tanks, it means placing traps near where you want to be standing along the line of your path of retreat. Just remember that where you put your trap should change based on composition, map, and enemy team's behavior. Junkrat's ult Riptire has potential to wipe an entire team or completely whiff, so it's important to identify how you can use this Riptire to win fights. If you try and simply run it down and charge it towards the enemy team, it will simply die and get wasted. When using Riptire, you need to use walls and roofs to navigate through the battlefield, not exposing the tire until you are ready to detonate it onto unsuspecting victims. When activating the ult, you should have a pretty good idea of who you are trying to kill. The best targets for you to focus if you want to win fights are the support and backline characters. They have the least mobility and damage, and are essential to keeping the team alive, so by picking them off, you make your team's chances of winning skyrocket. Comps. Junkrat is a specialist pick, and as such he only really works well in a single team comp. This team comp is Deathball. Just a reminder that Deathball comps are loosely aligned comps that look to move together as a unit and fight as a team. With the Junkrat in a Deathball comp, the team should look to take as many fights in choke points as possible. If facing another Deathball comp, the Junkrat spam will be too major of a threat and require them to fight elsewhere. If you're coming up against one of these Junkrat Deathball comps, one of the best comps that you can run is Dive, especially with a Pharah or Echo. As we've mentioned, Junkrat really struggles when a team splits and avoids choke points, and against Dive he will be almost useless outside point blank range. Maps. Just like with comps, Junkrat is only really a good pick on a couple of maps. Of course, at lower ranks you can play him with whatever, wherever, and still find success. But at higher ranks, comps and maps can make or break Junkrat. Maps that Junkrat excel on are King's Row, Eichenwald, and Anubis, to name a few. The reason he is so strong on these maps is that there are a lot of choke points and close quarter engagements that go on, as well as lots of walls that you can bounce your grenades off to get around shields and spam out the backline. Maps where Junk will struggle are Dorado, Junkertown, and Watchpoint, as these are much wider open maps, with more high grounds and flank ropes, making it very difficult to land your damage. Anyway guys, that's about everything I wanted to share with you, to allow you to pick up Junkrat as a specialist character to absolutely dominate in certain scenarios. If you have any questions or want to ask me something, leave it down below in the comment section. And if you liked the video or learned something new, why not subscribe and leave a like. Until next, see you then.
My phone lights up, but it's never you. I can't help but feel so lonely, and all these things that I can't undo.